Yo, 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 yo. What up, Comic Sense community, crowd, crew? I miss you X in the house with another episode of CSP. Y'all see the header. This is the MCU. Has it peaked? Are there too many Marvel movies and television properties? Is it too much for the consumers to consume? We're going to explore it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to cover. There is a reason why I'm having this conversation today. We got a special guest coming in as soon as he comes in. My homeboy, Matt Lucas from Revenge of the Nerd podcast. We're going to have him on as soon as he gets in. But yeah, there's a reason why I'm kind of amped. You know, they say don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear. It's generally issue X that is poking the bear. My man Matt is here. We're going to get him on in a second. We're going to have him talk. It's generally issue X that's poking the bear with a thunder stick that has a gauge. Well, this time it's me. I'm the bear. And I've been poked and I've been prodded and I want to go in on this subject and I want to talk about it and I want to talk about how I was inspired to even cover this subject. I'm sure it's not new. I'm sure I'm not the first to do it, and I won't be the last. But it's going to be a unique perspective because I got the homie Matt in the house. But before we bring on Matt, it's going to be completely organic. When I say completely organic, listen, Matt and I didn't sit backstage. We're going to shoot from the hip. Matt, I hope you brought your guns, homie, because I brought mine. We're going to talk about it. But before we do that, before we get into this conversation, we're going to keep some lights on. We are going to pay some bills. That having been said, I need everyone to like and follow Comic Sense on Facebook and join our Facebook group. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us at Comic Sense on Instagram. I need you to do that. If you watch this video now, if you watch it later, I need you to stop what you're doing because you probably watched it on the Facebook page. I need you to go over to the YouTube channel. I need you to give it a thumbs up. I need you to give it a thumbs down. I need you to press play for like 3 seconds. I need you to not do nothing. That means do something. I'm going to bring in Matt. There's a reason why I have Matt here. Really want to get into that. I'm going to talk about it. But I want to, you know what? I'll bring in Matt first. Let him shout out to the people. And then I'll get into the reason why I brought Matt here. And I'll get into the actual subject. What up, Matt? Revenge of the Nerd podcast. Shout out to the homie Matt. Matt's got the music playing in the background. Talk to the people, bro. Matt? Are we having some technical difficulty, Matt? Can you hear me?
Hold on.
Yep, no problem. I'm going to check out the comments.
The audio was totally working and now it's not. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
All right, because I can't hear you at all now.
Okay, I need my people in the comments to shout out. Let us know. Can you hear?
That's how you know this is organic.
It is
I'm
very
really
organic.
Waking up and jumping into this. 1 second, I think this.
Matt's got all the technical stuff. Stay tuned. We got some stuff coming down the pipeline as well. So David Moore, shout out to David Moore. He's in the house. David says he can hear both of us. Belinda Mavens says that she can hear both of us as well. So you just can't hear me, Matt. All right. So Matt used the word that I'm going to use, organic. Organic is the correct word. The reason why I have Matt on, one, Matt and I have a lot of chemistry. We don't often agree. Well, we do agree on many things, and on many things we disagree. And I'm always I'd rather have conversations with people that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't know Matt's opinion on this particular subject at all. There has been no prep time, a la Batman. There has been no prep time leading into this conversation. So this is going to be a strictly organic conversation inspired by a platform that is a mutual friend. Can't hear you anymore, Matt. Can't hear you anymore at all, Matt. But this conversation is inspired by a platform that are mutual friends of myself and Matt. That would be the Comic Menu Podcast. Shout out to the Comic Menu Podcast. Please take the time to go over to the Comic Menu Podcast page. Follow the Comic Menu Podcast page. Go to their YouTube page. That is on Facebook. Go to their YouTube page. Follow their YouTube page. Both Matt and I are frequent guests on that podcast. Really love that crew. Del Guzman, Cesar Morales, love the crew. Amazing people in this comic community. Want to give it, can't shout them out enough. So The Comic Menu podcast made a post today, maybe yesterday, I believe, from an old post, right? From a very old post where Michelle Rodriguez was at a Comic Con.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
We got you.
Yeah. It's working in the testing and it's not working. I guess let me leave and come back maybe.
Okay.
Like
you got the link.
I don't know why it's not working. Let me try to link again or something.
Okay. So the Comic Menu podcast posted a quote verbatim from Michelle Rodriguez from 2022-2023, where she was at a con. And I'm going to read the quote. The quote is not in question. What they posted is not in question. It inspired a conversation that I just wanted to elaborate on. I wanted to have a conversation with someone else as a sounding board, just kind of go back and forth. And I want to get the community's opinion. The community opinion obviously is very niche for sure. My opinion is my opinion. Certainly nothing that I'm going to misrepresent or represent as fact, although I am MCU. So, what I say is IS. Y'all know what I'm doing here. Y'all see what I did here. What up, Matt?
Yo, can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear
me? Yo, it's so dumb. I just literally went out and went back. I changed nothing. It's just now. It's anyway. What's good?
Were you able to hear me? Talk to the people. Let them know. And I'll go over what I went over if you didn't hear me.
Yeah. I didn't hear anything you said. Once I got in, I couldn't see anything. What's up, everybody? It's Matt from Revenge of the Nerd. Just kind of been working on some projects. I know I've been not necessarily in everybody's face like I normally am, but happy to be here with my homeboy Ish, cooking up things on the side, having lots of conversations about what it is we're trying to do and accomplish here. So, very happy to be here and test this format out. It looks amazing. Looks very good. And I'm not really read in on what today's topics are going to be. Very, very general, brief overview. I guess something happened in media relating to the MCU, and I'm really excited to discuss it.
All right, so let me just quick recap of what you missed.
Okay.
As I explained to the viewing audience, you and I, we have some things coming down the pipeline with some other people. We got some stuff coming down the pipeline, so I need everyone to stay tuned for that. I was explaining to them how one of the reasons why it was important for me to have you on in this particular conversation is because while we agree on a lot of things, we don't always agree, and it's very important that you and we have some really dope, organic conversations, whether we agree or we disagree. And I just thought that, okay, this is a conversation I would like to have with you. I don't know Matt's opinion on this topic. I have had no conversation with Matt other than I wanted to talk about this. So
Is this a She-Hulk conversation?
No. The header is has the MCU peaked? Has the MCU peaked? Are there too many films and television shows? Has the MCU peaked? And I'm going to set this up. So our great friends over at the Comic Menu podcast posted a quote. Both Matt and I are recurring guests on that podcast. Please go find the page on YouTube and
shout out Facebook. To my man Dylan Caesar.
Shout out to Dylan Caesar. You guys are watching. Shout out to you. We are both frequent guests on that podcast. I contribute on the page when and where I can, both as Issue X and as Comic Sense. So the Comic Menu podcast posted something, a quote from Michelle Rodriguez from some years ago. I will post the quote now. I will share that with you. Can you all see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
So this is from a Comic-Con some years ago. The quote they posted was, "Where can you go?" I'm sorry. They posted, "How many Marvel movies can you make?" Like, come on, guys. At some point, we've got to get innovative with this. End quote. Right. So this isn't about the Comic Menu podcast or them posting that quote. This is not what this is about. Obviously, there's more context to this. We also know that when this quote came out, a small niche group of people. When I say a small niche group of people, I mean the comic book community. Sue me. I told you today I'm the bear. Generally, I poke the bear, like I said, with a thunder stick that has a gauge. Today, it's me. I'm the bear. I'm a half Kodiak, half Grizzly, and I'm woken up too early. That having been said, this particular quote, obviously there's a context to it. There's so many movies I like to see merge. Like, think about it. The world's your oyster. Where can you go? So we know where Michelle Rodriguez is going. Don't care. What I care about is that I agreed with her. If the question is, are there too many Marvel movies? Are there too many Marvel movies? Has Marvel peaked with the amount of content that it is bringing outside of comic books to television and or film? That, to me, I believe her quote by itself begs the question. It is a debate and a conversation that I got in online, and I agreed with her. And I want to, before I let Matt speak about this, I want to say that I support all of the Marvel content. I love it. I support the good. I support the bad. I'll tell you it's bad, but I support it. I support it with my dollars. I support it with my eyes. I support it with my voice. I support it with my platform. I want to see it keep coming. Both of these things can be true. That I support and I enjoy the Marvel movies, and that I also think that there are too many. I do believe that it has peaked, and I will tell you why, but I want to let Matt have the floor. I do believe that Marvel has peaked by definition of peak. I do believe that Marvel has peaked as far as what they are bringing to television and what they are bringing to film. That having been said, I want to give Matt the floor, and I want to let him touch on what I am calling the topic.
Well, Ish, once again, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to have conversations with you. Should our friendship end after this discussion, know that my time with you has been greatly appreciated.
Matt be cooking.
Yo,
I cook too, though.
Issue X. How is it that the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, can peak or could have peaked without even beginning to tell its peak stories?
That's it.
I mean, let's just pause and hover there for a second.
Oh,
greatest stories.
Do I have to hover? I gotta hover. I want to listen. I want
the
to
greatest stories.
And say, take me to your leader. That's where I'm at with it.
The greatest stories that have been told by Marvel have not been told by the MCU. Especially, and I'm biased. Listen, President Obama said it once. I can only speak from the perspective of somebody of black background with my, my upbringing. That's who I am. It's my experience and my existence. The X-Men are and will always be the most relatable franchise in comic books. I am.
Never heard of them.
I had the privilege of growing up with. Right, the story,
of the X-Men.
Right. So if let's really look at what we've done here, right? They started with Iron Man. Iron Man was a B-list character that became an A-lister, right? They moved on to the corny, campy Avengers comics and told those stories, and they rocked at it. What happens when they start telling these Christopher Claremont stories? What happens when we start getting into, the 90s X-Men? Like when we start, just look at peak MCU and think about what they were able to do with X-Men 97 in just one season.
You just took me straight to your leader. I just got off the ship with my little Martian laser, and you took me straight to the leader with it. And in more ways than one, right? You said Obama, but you just said, look at peak MCU. Should I rest my case there?
No, I'm saying if you look at what people are considering to be the peak MCU, right?
As long as we keep using peak, I feel like I got a cape on.
This is my thing. What people are considering to be the peak has already been reached, if not propelled beyond, with X-Men 97.
Okay, let's argue that.
You don't get peak MCU if you don't have peak Marvel, and peak Marvel is the X-Men.
Okay, so that's an opinion. I think that's a really dope opinion, to be honest with you. And it's an opinion that I would love to support. Not only would I love to support, I will support, right? Like, I'm going to continue to show up with my loot. I'm going to continue to show up with my eyes, with my time. Obviously, look behind me. If
you're an MCU fan, if you're a Marvel fan, you have to know that the best is yet to come.
Okay.
You have to know that what's coming is going to, look at the advances in technology,
We
You know what
cooking.
I'm saying? Right now is the test bed for experimentation and what are people willing to accept? What are they not? With all of this data that we've gathered through the multiverse saga, how can you not look at Marvel and say, yo, they're finna hit a home run with the mutant saga? They have everything they need to hit a home run. And I get it, you know, people were losing faith because Disney and blah blah and woke this and why is this character now black and why is this character now gay and all that stuff. Listen, everything that they've been experimenting with and you know giving a little bit of leash and a little bit of rope with, like, you have to know that what's to come next is going to be some of the greatest sigma, some of the greatest cinema that we've ever seen, because the stories, that's what it boils down to, stories. So to say, so you know, for Michelle Rodriguez to say a stupid comment like, well, first of all, I just want to speak to this comment on screen. Current day Feige will do everything in his power to destroy the X-Men. Kevin had a good run. It's you know, people are real quick to champion somebody when they're up, and when they feel like they're down, they'll turn their back. You know what I mean? Like, as far as I'm concerned, Kevin Feige is the Steve Kerr of the MCU, and he hasn't disappointed me yet. Not in a single project. Everybody knows I'm a caper when it comes to the MCU. I have nothing but appreciation. I don't love everything that they've released, but I understand the intent. I understand when they hit their mark. I understand the execution has, you know, its issues, and it doesn't resonate with everybody. But I also know that it's not for everybody. But yo, the X-Men, the stories that come with the X-Men are coveted. There's no way they're gonna fuck that up. No way. I mean, you could just look at if Kevin Feige.
Let's hold on. Let's fall back a little bit. Let's fall back. All right. Really quick, Ian Michaels, Hollywood Michaels. Shout out to Ian Michaels. You make two statements here. One I agree with. One I do not agree with. I do not agree with current day Kevin Feige will do everything in his power to destroy the X-Men. There's no precedent for that. There's nothing other than opinion, perhaps your opinion, that suggests that would be the case at all. Just, that's not even good for business. That having been said, the second portion, Kevin had a good run, but it's time to move on to a new studio head. This I don't totally disagree with. And the reason why is the reason why I think that Marvel has peaked. By definition, peaked. By definition, Marvel's peak was Endgame. Your favorite Marvel product, a product I really didn't care for. But by definition, Marvel peaked with Endgame. Financially, critically, and ratings-wise, has been in decline since Endgame.
Can we not use a single movie to describe the peak of the MCU?
Well, right, but it's not just any single movie, right? It is the movie that represents the culmination of what would be called the Marvel movie universe formula when it was successful.
But I would say that the entire fandom is divided in Endgame being peak versus Infinity War. I think Infinity War and Endgame together is like Kill Bill 1, Kill Bill 2.
Well, it's one movie.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like together the Infinity Saga's culmination
is the peak.
Would be
by definition. By definition, we're calling that peak. But hold on. Right. So this speaks to what I'm saying, to what I'm addressing in Ian's second statement, right?
Right.
So we're talking 20 years of movies, right? Give or take, probably less than that. But we're talking greater than a decade worth of movies, right? And we're talking a formula that was new and unique, right? A new and unique formula that people bought into, to the point where even the bad movies, people weren't willing to say they were bad. They would put them over your average DC offering, even though there is no way you can put Thor 2 next to Wonder Woman and say that Thor 2 is better. You just can't do it, right? But they were willing to overlook it because of the freshness and the newness of this formula. We don't even want to say a movie is bad, even though it's bad. You know, it is. We just didn't want to say it. There was one of those Avengers movies, arguable. Anyway, we get to the Infinity Saga, Infinity War, Endgame. This is by definition Marvel's peak. By definition of peak. This doesn't mean that it cannot peak again, as you suggested. This doesn't mean that it is done, that it is gone.
It also doesn't mean it was the first peak.
Right. but this is the peak.
The current peak.
It's
they
the
have
height.
not.
It's the height.
And I don't really know that
it's
that's a true statement, because
Of course
I
it
mean,
is.
like in a lot of ways, you could say No Way Home was in that Mount Rushmore of peak MCU cinema. You know what I mean?
No Way Home didn't gross as much as Endgame.
Okay, all right. I mean, but when you're talking about grossing,
They haven't had another Endgame.
Are we only you? Well, that's because Endgame is. They've never made another Endgame.
Right. Hold on. But this is what we're defining. We just going by definition of peak. From that point, 15, 20 years later, people who grew up watching these movies, right, are now more critical. And we have a historical precedent, right? We have a historical precedent, which is why we don't want to jump the shark. And when I say
what's the precedent?
Everything pop culture, right? Game of Thrones, right? Walking Dead, right? They peaked. They absolutely peaked. And then they got to this point where even their loyal fans became critical, started to question. Look at the Star Wars franchise. We have historical precedents. When you give too much, eventually, even if it is great, listen, this new Avenger stuff that's coming out will be criticized to the high heaven no matter how good it is.
We live in a world today where everything is criticized to the high heavens. It's the status quo, right?
Yes.
And so the only thing is that people's voices have been amplified. David Morris, shout out to David Morris, says, I relate to sports. There's teams or leagues that peak in certain years or decades, then go on to be average at best, but yet they can peak again. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's my Warriors, right? I'm a Warriors fan. We had our era, our little dynasty era, and it's largely kaput. It's probably done and over with now. But I don't think that that's the curtain closing on it. This whole
no one on this side is talking about the curtain closing.
Yeah. I'm going back to the Feige comment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I think that this idea that in Feige we no longer trust because Feige had bandwidth to try something that hadn't been done before. I'm talking about beyond Endgame. I'm talking about with the multiverse saga and really leaning into it, and then branching out and trying to touch different genres. Like you can look at, I think, and someone can.
Well, hold on. Can we agree that the multiverse saga, just to be fair, can we agree? And obviously, it's opinion. But can we agree that it is not as appealing as the stuff that came before, as Thanos and the Infinity Saga?
Not really. I can't say that it's more or less. To me, it's all the same. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm getting comic book content of stuff that I never thought I'd get, and I'm pretty grateful for that. Right? I think that my favorite character came out of the multiverse saga. There's no way I'm ever gonna be like, Thor 3, Thor Ragnarok was a Infinity Saga movie. I didn't love that more than I love She-Hulk. I love She-Hulk. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciated where we went with Miss Marvel. I appreciated the attempt of trying to rope in Chloe Zhao in God, Jesus, what's the name of the movie that she did? Chloe Zhao. She did not Guardians, Eternals. With Eternals, right? You know what I mean? This is all
Infinity stuff. This isn't
no. Multiverse is was Multiverse not Eternals? That's not multiverse.
It's kind of in the gap between. It's before we realized they were gonna go multiverse.
I don't think that there is a gap. I think once No Way Home was the end of the
Eternals is a gap. It doesn't really fall into any of the two. It's just, hey, here's the Eternals, and perhaps
that can't be a thing. I think they both have to land some. It has to land somewhere.
Why?
Because all of the movies fell in. Like you can buy an Infinity Saga box set, and that is the first 10 or so years of Marvel stuff.
Yeah, but that's like saying Black Widow fall. It just doesn't. It's just
it does.
But it doesn't.
No, it does. It does.
It doesn't.
It does.
But it doesn't.
If you look at the timeline,
it falls on a timeline, but it's just a movie.
No, it's not just a movie. It's part of the saga.
It's not.
Saga? It's yes.
Well, it came after.
You cannot have the Infinity Saga without. You cannot have the Infinity Saga without Black Widow. It's impossible.
Yeah, but the movie took place afterwards.
No, the movie came out. The movie came out afterwards.
But it came out
chronologically.
way before Infinity Saga.
Chronologically,
the setting was way before Infinity Saga.
Yeah, it was part of the Infinity Saga.
Yeah, like, but not
Marvel has already come out and released and said, hey, that
they can say whatever they want.
Era, it's their shit. It's just like they can say that Hulk 180 is the first appearance of Wolverine. It's their shit.
That doesn't mean people have to suspend their disbelief because you say it. Like, I don't have to.
Hold on.
I can suggest that I don't relate to this as a part of this all I want because I don't. Because it didn't impact me, or I can do without it.
But your experience doesn't meet the definition of what a thing is just because it's your experience.
Well, anecdotal evidence isn't evidence, but that doesn't matter.
If I make a movie and I say, hey, this movie is this, and just because you say it's not, if I make a movie and I say, hey, this is a horror movie, and you're like, well, that movie didn't scare me, so I didn't see it as a horror movie. It seemed like more of a thriller. I made the movie and I told you it was a horror movie. Whether or not it met your definition of what you are scared of does not change that my intent and my direction behind my creation is that this is what it is.
But it doesn't make that what it is because that's your
intent. Does.
No, it's always subject to the interpretation of the subscriber. Always.
No.
Horror is only horror to people who view it. Absolutely. And from a creative perspective, as a creator, I would love for everything I create to be received the way I want it to be received. But that's just not the case. It's just not going to be consumed that way. People consume things and they choose. This is a horror movie. I'm not afraid of it, so to me, it's not horror. You're never going to convince me that a vampire movie is a horror because I love them, so I don't see it that way. You'll never convince me, and that's okay. I am the consumer. Here's the thing about art that sucks. Once you put it out to the world, it is not yours.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. As an artist, I will tell you, any artist will tell you that yes, how you receive it and how you experience it is your experience and how you receive it. It does not define my art.
To you?
No, I'm the creator of it.
Yeah, but you can't define how it impacts me. You can't.
Yeah, but how it impacts you. How
your art impacts me as the consumer.
But how it impacts you does not define what I made. I'm telling you I made it. If J.R.R. Martin made Game of Thrones, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes through and he says that, hey, it's my intent that this is what's supposed to happen, blah, 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 blah. And people receive it a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't change that, J.R.R. Martin said that this is a saga. J.R.R. Martin said that this is what this is and what it means.
But Marvel didn't come out and say this is a part of the Infinity Saga.
Yes, they did.
They just added it to the Infinity Saga.
No, they did not add it to.
They absolutely did.
How can listen? You're smart guy-ish.
You put it in box sets.
You're a really intelligent person.
So that you make more money.
The movie was greenlit and put into production well before a definition of what is what came out. That just because you saw it happen.
Wait, what?
You don't understand what I said.
I understood what you said. I'm trying to understand the premise by which you can say that. How do you know this?
Because I know how production works. I know that
you also understood that the reason why they did this movie was because she was leaving the franchise.
No, I understand that they did this. Whether she left the franchise or not had nothing to do with whether she was going to get the movie.
Absolutely.
No, it didn't.
Absolutely.
That doesn't make any sense.
All of this contributed. There wasn't going to be just a Black Widow movie.
Black Widow had been put on the production table multiple times, and they didn't do it until they felt like they could tell the story in a way that the character would appreciate. The character would be appreciated. And that's why they did it when they did it. Mm-hmm. Because it was like, all right, well, Natasha dies. We want to give this character more depth and give it more ground.
So you're saying that Shang-Chi, all of these fall into Shang-Chi, Black Widow, all of these movies that came out in that COVID period, right?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
No,
I'm saying,
are you suggesting that these are all
No.
Infinity or
No.
multiverse movies, and they can't just be standalone movies that
Yes.
bridge a gap?
yes,
Okay,
100%.
I disagree 100%.
It doesn't matter if you agree or not. If you look at Marvel's definition of what they said, this is the Infinity Saga, this is the Multiverse Saga. Those movies fall into one or two buckets.
No, I
Period.
understand that. I still disagree.
Okay,
I still disagree. As a consumer, I don't agree.
that's
As a
fine.
consumer, I don't. As someone who is consuming the product, I'm not buying your box set for Shang-Chi.
Your feelings are not fact.
But no one is saying it's fact.
But you're essentially saying it doesn't fit into the box because it doesn't feel like it belongs in the box.
Yeah, because so here's the problem, right? Fact does not matter when it comes to public consumption.
That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life.
It's the truth. Hold on, but it still remains the truth.
Fact does not.
Hold on.
The facts don't matter. Facts don't matter when we're talking about public shit.
Wait a minute. No, when it talks about what public consumption. Did you hear what I said? Public consumption. Hold on, wait a minute. If the public decides to say, I don't like, nor am I going to consume the Ewoks holiday special, and I don't consider it a part of the original Star Wars canon, guess what? George Lucas can say it's Star Wars canon all he wants. The public isn't consuming it as such. No one is watching it. It's not coming on syndicated TV. You will never see it again unless you go digging in the crates because the public has spoken. They don't care. That's what I'm talking about. It is a fact that the Ewoks holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special, these are canon. This is a fact. Or legends, as you want to call it. These are facts. Do you know someone who's under your age that watches it, that will watch it, that cares about it, that is going to consume it? Our network,
talking about
is it on Disney Network? No.
It's two different things.
Hold on, wait a minute. What I'm saying is I'm speaking to my point that a fact, J-Rob and I were talking about this earlier, has nothing to do with public consumption. Marvel can say to they blue in the face that it is a part of this. If the public looks at it and says, well, most people don't know Eternals was a part of the Infinity Saga. No matter how loud Marvel screams it, they just don't know that. They just see it as this movie that came out in the gap. That's all they see it as. They're not saying, oh yeah, well, the end of the Infinity Saga, the last part was Eternals. They're just not. Even though you have your facts. Even though Disney can say it all they want. It is a matter of fact. Okay? How far is that getting Marvel in the eyes of the people who consume Marvel products? Are they you're on here championing Eternals being an Infinity Saga movie? For sure.
Well, we're just gonna I'm pulling this up because it's not what I think it is. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna say
it's what Marvel
says it is.
That's okay. It's all that counts.
But no one's arguing that.
And if Marvel comes back and they say, "Hey, actually, we're gonna change this and put this movie over here because we felt like it goes better over here." Yo, if that's what Marvel says it is, that's what it is.
Nobody is refuting that, and that certainly isn't all that counts. Because if it was all that counted,
it's all that matters.
If it was all that matters, then we'd have an Eternals too. Because the public.
No. What does that have to do with anything?
The public is willing to consume.
So listen.
Matters.
No.
Matters.
You're essentially saying that if the reason why Eternals 2 was or was not greenlit is based on whether or not Marvel has defined it in association with a specific saga.
No. That's really dope to do. That's a really dope way of making it look like I'm saying something that I'm not. I am speaking to public opinion versus Marvel fact.
There's no. Don't ask nothing. Listen,
me answer.
No, because we're still on this point.
Right, but you asked me a question. So,
you already clarified that.
No, I didn't.
You did. You just did.
I did not.
You said that's not what you're saying.
And thus, I am going to tell you what I'm saying. What I am saying is, public opinion is the reason why we don't have an Eternals 2. Because they didn't like Eternals 1. They didn't show up. They didn't buy it. That's how public opinion impacts it. That is how public opinion impacts it. That is why public opinion matters. If the public, Marvel can say to their blue in the face that this is a fact, this is a part of Infinity Saga. If the public says, and you're right, there's no disputing it. But if the public says, yeah, well, we don't think it is, we don't like it, we don't consider it to be, then that is what it is. Whether, no, hold on. You're right. It is still going to be a fact that it is a part of the Infinity Saga. It's just the public aren't going to consume it as such. And they have a right to do so or not, no matter what Marvel says.
You're essentially explaining the entire debacle behind Hulk 180 and Hulk 181. The public... Yes, and sure.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't change that the reality of the situation is the reality of the situation, right?
Right. We're not arguing that. I've agreed with you.
Just because people go one way doesn't change the definition of something being differently. You know what I'm saying? That the first appearance of Wolverine is obviously Hulk 180. We all know it to be fact, right? Marvel comes out and says it's fact, right? They created the character. They published the appearance. They said that. We as a public have decided that, yeah, but we're going to treat this next book as his first appearance and being more valuable and more coveted. And we're doing that because that's what we as a public are saying we want to do, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's for, malicious intent, whether it's for selfish gain, no matter whether it's unfair market, whatever, right? We have decided that. Public is always going to dictate that.
Well, you and I, as always, we both agree on the fact. We disagree on the impact of said fact.
No, because the impact is the reality. The reality is that if people don't like She-Hulk
as an Infinity film, most people don't consider it such.
I don't think people think about it in that terms at all.
That's my point.
You know what I mean? Like, sure.
That's the point. Sure. That's what I'm saying. It just doesn't. Right. It doesn't have the impact.
But just like most people who saw Endgame didn't see very many other movies in the MCU. You know what I'm saying? That was a movie like going to Six Flags. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people retroactively or in preemptive too they weren't just following the MCU because the MCU had been followed. You know what I'm saying? That's why it grossed as much as it does. Hey man, listen, Dale.
Yo, listen to us. Listen to Ish and Matt go at it. We be going at it. This is what we do.
Listen here, Dale. Don't ever say my bitch name in your mouth again. You keep Jennifer Walters' name out your mouth.
Kid friendly show.
You keep Jennifer Walters' name out your. Excuse me, Dale. Don't talk about. Listen. Y'all gonna leave my She-Hulk alone.
So we brought this whole conversation up. Shout out to Del Guzman, by the way. This entire conversation was inspired again by a conversation we were having on the Comic Menu podcast. Both Matt and I, friends of the Comic Menu podcast, they are friends of ours, frequent guests on their show. Shout out to them. Really appreciate them. Del is the ultimate gaslighter. He's probably my favorite gaslighter, which I don't like any other gaslighter. So he's in a minority of one. Del will throw a dead cat on the table and then have two people sitting in a room across the country on microphones on YouTube and on Facebook having conversations about the dead cat that Del threw on the table. And thirdly, Batman is more iconic than Wonder Woman. I'm not even going to go there at all.
I don't think so. I think Wonder Woman's iconic, but I don't think she's more iconic than Batman. Batman is Batman.
She's more iconic than Batman. How? We're not going there. We're not
going there.
We're not having this conversation on this show. We're not having this conversation on this particular show. We're having another show. We're having another show. We're not going to go to. We're still in the middle of a conversation. Wonder Woman is more iconic than Batman. Issue X says again, I'm the bear this week. I can put people at the bottom. I'm not going to, but I can. I can put you at the bottom and just say what I want to say. Listen, I'm letting everybody say their piece. I'm letting everybody say what they need to say. Matt, I'm going to tell you, I think that you made an excellent point. I'm not refuting the fact. I agree with you that it is a fact. 100%. I agree with you that Marvel, based upon those metrics, Marvel said it is an Infinity movie. I didn't know it was an Infinity movie. It didn't feel like an Infinity movie to me.
I'm not saying one or the other. I'm just saying that it is what they say it is. Which one it falls into is I couldn't say for sure. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know where the line stopped. I thought the line stopped for after that phase, which was No Way Home, is when the phase ended. But it felt like that phase was the kickoff of the multiverse saga. So whatever, I would have to look and see specifically what Disney or Marvel is calling what saga and where the line is. I just think that, and I am of the understanding that every movie falls into one or the other. There is no well, the movie only covered this many crossover issues because it was this time, and everything else before that was just a lead up to it, and didn't really. I don't understand that. You know what I'm saying?
That speaks to what my initial concern is, right? If this is the case, my initial concern is that we are being over inundated. Now, I want to speak to something that you said, but before I do that we are being over inundated, and it's okay, right? It can be both. Like, I can appreciate the MCU, I can appreciate everything that they offer, and I can still agree that there's too many. You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
Okay, but that's my position. Is that there's too many and that we're being over inundated. And this speaks to the point, right? Like, every movie falls into one of these categories. So then, based upon that, and I'm going to keep it real because I enjoyed Black Widow. Did we need Black Widow? I think Black Widow was necessary.
You didn't need Black Widow.
Hold on. I didn't say that I didn't. It's just a question I'm throwing out there. Did we need Black Widow? I'm throwing out there for the purpose of exploration. I'm not taking a position on it or not. I'm going to say that
you and I, as we, did not need it. The we that needed Black Widow is the we that should have received it, and that's the nut that Marvel is having a hard time cracking. Is these movies that are not specifically for you and I, or the standard cis white male, are movies that are supposed to be intended for other audiences to expand the audience of MCU. I don't agree that we have too many Marvel movies. I think we should have so many Marvel movies I don't watch some. That's what I think.
So I think
there should be enough. I think there should be enough for everyone who wants to enjoy it, and there be some that that don't work for me because they're not mine. You know what I mean? Like, that's when I think we have enough Marvel movies. There should be movies. I think
that the formula is dated. Personally,
agreed.
The formula is dated.
Agreed. You can't. You're operating on the formula of what they were doing movie. That's what She-Hulk largely was a middle finger to the formula and poking fun at the formula that the MCU had used for those 10 years on how they just troped their way through the first, couple phases of the MCU. And that's why I love She-Hulk, because it really was a parody. It made fun. It poked fun at that. The fourth wall breaks. I think that's dated.
That with not only that, right? I also think that the comedic approach to a lot of these things is the same. It's just the same, and it's kind of tired. It's a tired.
You talking about the punchy one-liner type deals?
Yeah, I think it's. And
look what happens when you do something different, because She-Hulk didn't do that. She-Hulk didn't.
Hold on. Let me just get this thought out. So I think that it's no longer resonating with newer audiences. So, and here's the thing, for me personally, right, as a creator, and it's something I was saying to somebody earlier today, I would rather leave you wanting more than leave you wanting me to go away. Meaning, I think the MCU, because you said some things that really, really resonate and really matter to me, right? And I don't like the way that you said them, to be honest with you, because while the MCU has not told its greatest stories yet, it doesn't mean that they can tell them in a great way, even if they tell these great stories, right? It doesn't mean that they're going to stick the landing because they have great stories on the table. I would hope that they would. They've shown me that they can, and I would hope that would be the X-Men 97, right, in and of itself, was a conflation of a bunch of great stories. So while I liked the show, I didn't like that. Like, they took they 5 great stories and just made it one thing. So if that's what they intend to do, I wasn't cool with that, but I thought the overall product was dope. It surprised me, to be honest with you. But as a hardcore X-Men fan, it's like, okay, you took Inferno, you took Phoenix, you took all of these things, and you just made it one sandwich of a thing. I don't want to see that on television and film. That's not something I'm looking forward to seeing. But just really quick, just to summarize, I wouldn't be upset. I like them to stick around, but I wouldn't be upset if they went away and then came back with X-Men. with an entirely new approach. And they said, okay, you know what? The MCU, y'all have the MCU. It'll be here. It's a library we can always go to. We can always build on. But let's just let this thing rest for a bit. Let's let people get into that place where they miss something. And then let's open the door with something fresh and new. New approach. There's nothing wrong with passing torches. You know, Kevin Feige can oversee some things, but bring in some other people, some younger people who resonate with this younger audience. The people who grew up on the MCU and now are adults and having kids. That's my thoughts. Go ahead.
First, I appreciate your thoughts. I think you bring up good points. I think that there are some things that I do disagree with. You know, when I look at the MCU, I largely look at it like the Apple, like Disney and Apple, like hand in hand, right? Two companies that are very large and have persisted. Obviously, Disney's been around longer than Apple. But I look at them as like
meaning Apple, the company.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I look at it largely as the marquee, right? The standard for how you get shit done, right?
You look at Disney as a standard or Marvel?
Apple and Disney.
Okay.
Apple and Disney on how to grow a brand, grow a company, how to expand, and how to persist, how to sustain over time. I never once said to myself, like, this iPhone stuff, you know, let's just give it a break for a while. I'm tired of, I don't need a new iPhone every month. No, the people who want a new iPhone will buy a new iPhone, and the people who don't won't, right? And I think that the idea is that, everybody, these movies are not made for everybody. Everything that comes out from the MCU doesn't need to be consumed by everybody. We just want it to be consumed by the people who we want to consume it. There's going to be some diehard MCU fans, but then there are going to be the specific audiences that we are attempting to cater towards, right? Marvels is a great example. The Marvels is a great example of a movie that should have been marketed effectively to an audience that largely did not reach, right? That's a marketing issue. I think that the movie, I'm not the demographic they were shooting for, but I would imagine everyone that I know in this, my little sample size, experience is not the metric for the entire, universe. But the Marvels was from the people who it was supposed to be marketed towards. It was effective. It just did not reach the entire audience, and that was part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? And I think if Marvel wasn't okay with that, then they would have been stopped making movies, and they would have been went on hiatus, and they would have taken a longer time. And listen, they schedule these movies out how they want to, right? And so I think it's their opinion that we're going to keep making movies. Sure, we'll slow down because Bob Iger says we need to slow down. This is actually a very difficult drought for me, right? That we're not getting movies and content as frequently as we were. It's disappointing to me because I feel like that was more jobs, that was more opportunities, that was more product, that was a larger expansion of audiences. You know what I'm saying? More variety in what we got. I felt like those were good things. You would not have The Boys if it was not for the MCU, period. You know what I'm saying? And it's because the MCU existed. It's because we got those Disney Plus shows that we got things like The Boys. And that's what Marvel.
So we got The Boys before we got the Disney Plus shows. I just want to throw that out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong.
I want to speak to really two things. One, bruh. So I'm gonna have to throw that frisbee right back at you. I appreciate your comments. I really agree with most of what you said, except for, and man, Jay Robinson said it. He agreed with me on the tired comedic one-liners. I'm gonna have to use one. You literally, by using that Apple comparison, literally met the definition of comparing apples to oranges when you compared Apple, the iPhone product, to Marvel Disney movies. Like 100%, you just compared apples to oranges. I know you understand it if you really think about it. Like when we talk about, obviously Apple iPhones versus consuming something that is pop culture, that historical precedent shows us if we're over inundated, no matter what it is and how good it is, people get critical, and not in the same way that people get critical over we're talking about almost a monopoly on a piece of technology, right?
Fam, no, literally, it's the opposite of that. The same criticisms that exist that, you know, when the iPhone first came out, you can go through like Gen 4 iPhone.
Yeah, but people aren't giving up their TVs because of Marvel movies, right? Like, they're going to always buy TVs no matter how much they criticize TVs. Yeah. Right? They're going to always buy cell phones, no matter how. People will give up Game of Thrones.
No, people can
will walk away from comic books as a whole. People will walk away from these pop culture. People will stop reading books.
Yeah, but they won't stop watching movies. They won't stop watching TV.
They just will stop watching. I just said that, right?
Right. So it's just we're just talking about one lane of product. Movie,
but you're saying that lane of product, that Marvel lane, is in the same lane as something as essential as an Apple iPhone or as a television, and that's apples to oranges. Marvel movies are not essential. It's not an essential product. It's not something that people can. That we need this.
That's a moot point. The point that I was making,
it's comparing apples to oranges. If that's the comparison,
sure, yeah. But the point is,
hold on, before you go,
the point is that Apple will continue to make iPhones because people will continue to buy iPhones. Marvel will continue to make movies so long as people continue to watch movies.
That's a point.
That is the point.
No,
the
that's
point
a point. That is the point. Hold on, wait a minute. It does not solidify the topic. It doesn't even support the topic.
No, what it supports is.
Go on.
What it supports is this idea that Marvel needs to take a break. And it doesn't.
Oh, okay. So that's what we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. The whole point is that why would they go on hiatus? Why would they take a break when there are going to be people that are going to consume it?
So they don't jump the shark.
Everything doesn't have to be a hit.
The shark. So they just don't jump the shark. So because of historical precedents, right? These are things that they need to talk about. And I'm talking about pop culture precedents, not technological precedents, right? Historical precedents. Historical precedent says that there is not a thing. There is not a thing. There's no pop culture thing that has been so dope that people have continued to consume, that it didn't go away. There just isn't one. And Disney should know that, being the marketing geniuses that you've suggested they are. There just isn't one. You can't give me an example. I don't have an example. Star Wars, okay, but look at what's happening with the franchise now. It did indeed peak. It did take a break for years. For years in order to come back. So hold on, before that though, I just have to talk about this nonsense that the homie Ian Hollywood Michaels just keeps. Ian, why, man? Why? Like, are you trying to be Del Guzman up in here? Are you trying to just throw the dead cats on the table?
This is part of the culture. And, you know, I fuck with Ian, right? Like, I mean, you know,
my man. That's obviously comics and shout out to Ian.
Right. Shout out to Ian. I fuck with Ian tough. But this kind of rhetoric and culture that we've created around social media and the ability to add our opinions for a take, right? We're trading how we really feel about shit and just looking for an opportunity to get a like or clout chase or have something go viral or say something that's going to get some attention. Like, it's a moot point. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have traded critical thought and critical opinion and consumption for this like minuscule clout chasey culture these days. You know what I mean? And saying stuff like this, right, is exactly where that gets supported, by highlighting it, by giving it the attention that it's warranting. You know what I mean? Like, you see it in the pictures that, you know, people share on their posts that are clickbait. You know, it's the same thing. We just have this culture, and what that does is it distracts from the actual like reception.
Marvels was actually a better movie. Here's a better conversation, Ian. The Marvels was a better movie than Thor: Love and Thunder and the second Thor, right?
Agreed.
Just a better movie.
Agreed.
Right? But during that time period when the second Thor came out, people could say it was a bad movie, but they didn't do what you're doing because they wanted to enjoy and appreciate the MCU as a whole. So they didn't throw
taking it as it came.
On the
Pause.
Table, right? Yep. And it was just a better, hands down, right?
God bless you, Ish.
And I want to speak real quick to what Jason Robin is saying, because me and Jay have had this conversation. Shout out to J Rob.
Rob, my man.
Yeah, we've had this conversation before, and I agree, right? That you can, so I do agree, and I'm gonna bet it's gonna seem like I'm contradicting my position in this video, because I do agree that if you just keep dropping stuff and you keep dropping stuff and you keep dropping stuff, and it is good, right? If it is good, we don't have this conversation. This isn't a video that we're having. We don't have this conversation. If you drop 10 things and 8 of them are good or at least passable, you don't have this conversation. But where I disagree, Jay, is that as a consumer, for me, competition is healthy. Competition is dope. As a consumer, it is dope to be able to see. Listen, Disney gets better because they have competition that forces them to be. They put out a better product. They hire better writers. They do a better job of giving me something that I want to see because they're good.
Let's talk about this from a production standpoint, right? Marvel Studios is a production company. Okay, if they stop making movies, not slow down, if they stop making movies, then they stop having revenue. Then they stop having the opportunity to innovate. They stop having the opportunity to employ, to find new talent, to integrate new talent, to find new storytellers.
I know where
you know what I mean. So then you already know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, sure, slowing down if we need to because it's costing money and it's not effective fiscally, it's not responsible fiscally, sure. But stopping completely, going on a hiatus is gonna now you have to get the ball rolling again. You know what I mean?
So what you call this, right? And I think I used the wrong term when I say take a break. So we're talking about, we're not just saying, all right, Kevin, take a break. We're talking Disney, right? We're talking the geniuses behind, it's Barack Obama and his slow withdrawal from Afghanistan. We still over there, right? You understand what I'm saying? It ain't just pack up, bounce. It's here's some programming. Here's some things that tide you over. Here's a Disney Plus universe, right? So that you say, oh man, that show was dope. Oh man, that one shot was dope. Oh, that special was dope. When are we getting another movie? Oh, that, it's not a hard shutdown. It's just a slow retreat.
But that's what this is. This is what's happening. That's exactly what's happening now.
Because here's the thing, right? There are people who sit around in these think tanks and they say things like, hey, here's a historical precedent. While, yes, we can continue to make money off of this, we have IPs and we have potential for IPs that we haven't even put out yet that could make us another $2 billion hit. If we destroy the market for that, right? If we continue to just, we can make this movie cost us, however many million, and we can double that. So let's just continue to do that. Let's just continue to do that. If people keep consuming it and we'll make this much and we'll make this much and this is a plan and it works. But somebody smart is saying, but did you hear what Matt said on that episode of Comic Sensory Perception with Issue X when Matt opened it up by saying, we have potential for $2 billion IPs and X-Men still on the table. We have potential for brilliance still on the table. And we could potentially cripple or hurt that if we turn away an audience that now isn't going to show up for that because we keep giving them things in this very critical era, right? This really critical era where they are, they're criticizing everything before. Listen, Secret War, Avengers Secret War already has a mountain to climb before it even comes out. Before that joint even comes out, half of fandom, and I don't even want to say half of fandom because I'm so incorrect. Half of what we know as comic fans, I'm not even going to speak for, because we're the minority. I'm not going to speak for the majority, right? Of people who never read a comic, will never read a comic, right? Who just are going to go see this movie perhaps, because that's who's more people who don't read comics go watch these Marvel movies than people who do. It's the people who do who go watch it 2 and 3 times. But more people who don't read comics go watch these movies. That's just what it is. So with that in mind, right, Secret Wars already has a huge, nobody cares that Jonathan Majors isn't Kang anymore outside of hardcore comic people.
And black people.
And black people. Like, they just don't care that Jonathan Majors isn't Kang anymore. They didn't know who Kang was beforehand. They didn't watch Loki. Newsflash to all of my people watching who love the MCU, Dell in particular. Dell, I hope you're still in the room, because Dell told me not to conflate he told me not to speak about the minority. We are the minority. Comic fans, we are the extreme minority when it comes to this movie stuff.
The extremely loud minority.
Yes, a very loud, in my case. We are an extremely loud minority when it comes to this movie stuff. We are the minority. We are the only ones who knew who Kang is. We're the only ones who watch Loki. Yeah, some people outside of comics watch Loki because their comic friends said you should go watch Loki. And they did. You know what I mean? And then some people were like, oh, this is a part of the MCU. I'm kind of enjoying this. Let me check out this Loki thing, right? But for the most part, nobody is watching these shows except for comic fans. Really. Sorry. Look at Moon Knight. We liked it. How many people do you hear the critical acclaim? We don't even know if it's getting another season. Seriously. Like, if it was overwhelmingly watched, this is a fact. I'm sure Matt can attest to this. If Moon Knight broke the records and made all the money, we would know that there's going to be a Moon Knight season 2. We would already know. We don't know. It's like up in the air. We even get into Moon Knight season 2 because it's such a niche market. And I'm going to let Matt have the floor. I just want to say, coming into Avengers Secret Wars, from the moment they announced Kang being gone to them announcing Robert Downey Jr., the average person who doesn't get this news out of cons and all of that, there was no big news media event for the average person who lives down the street about Robert Downey Jr. being Dr. Doom. They don't care like we do. They don't care. So we are going to be our own worst enemies when it comes to these movies. Go on, Matt.
I mean, you're making great points. I don't disagree. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Avengers Secret Wars does have a mountain to climb. And the problem is that, God, the best way to explain this is to bring in other pop cultural references that relate, right? Eminem released the Marshall Mathers LP, right? He didn't think that he would do better than the Slim Shady LP. And then the Marshall Mathers LP went diamond. And then he was like, I'll never do better than this. And then the Eminem show came out and it did better. And then he was like, all right, well, this is the farewell. I'm done. And then he did Encore. And then he went away. And then he did Relapse. And then he did Recovery, and Recovery was critically acclaimed. And then he did, my point is
what
that.
What are we talking about?
I'm getting there. My point is that Eminem, time and time again, has seen where he's peaked and at points either met or exceeded the expectations of what his next offering was. We're in that phase with the MCU. So we could say that with Endgame, generically speaking, that they've released their Marshall Mathers LP too. Okay. Mm-hmm. The one that they're going to look back at and be like, yeah, we'll never top that. The Endgame was a cultural iconic moment in cinema that did more for storytelling than any movie had done in the last 10 years or so. Right. Like they could, no one's ever done this thing. The first time is always going to be the first time. It's going to be the first time. Mm-hmm. We'll never do it again. And it's very possible. Likely is debatable, right? Probable is not. Probable is not. It is there is a good chance that Marvel will be able to do what they've done again, mm-hmm. right?
Agree.
And exceed it. It will just be with the mutants. The mutants and how they can literally shift to nothing but mutant properties.
Yep.
And
nothing.
Still
We've been
win.
Screaming that for a long time.
Still win. They have enough mutant IP to be able to have mutant crossover movies just within mutants. So instead of it being Avengers Endgame, we literally could still have Avengers versus X-Men.
Hopefully not.
I hope so. I feel like it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It can be adapted, and I would want it if I had a choice to have it or not have it, I would absolutely give it to me. I want it to be better than Civil War, right? Civil War was to me a great time, but it wasn't what
it wasn't Civil War.
It's what I needed it to be, a moment.
Yeah, it wasn't Civil War.
That I wanted to leave. Listen, you should not leave a Captain America movie ever again not feeling like you did when you left Winter Soldier.
Yep.
You should leave like, damn, this movie impacted me in real life. Like,
But then there
damn.
wasn't Civil War, and that's the issue. That's the hurdle that we're always going to have. And
Yeah, you're
it's
only
gonna
as good as your last
continue,
hit.
and it's going to continue to keep a divide, right? And that's the problem. And I think one of the
Right.
biggest problems where we and here's the thing, right? And this is the big elephant that's in the room. The divide between the minority, the extreme minority that are comic fans, and the majority that are not.
The casual fans.
And when you have a Michelle Rodriguez saying what she's saying, she is not a comic fan.
No.
Right? So we're talking how do you think, right? Because the conversation that we're having is because we're within. We are sitting firmly entrenched in this minority, right? So we have a perspective, and on some level, subconsciously, we have biases, right?
Right.
For someone not in this community, do they think that Marvel needs to go away? Do they think that there are too many Marvel movies? And if they stop consuming, we as the minority lose. If they stop buying those tickets, we as the because we are not going to get by ourselves. We're not going to make a movie $1 million movie. We're not. And I want to tell you, and this is the reason why you and I both didn't get, while that Captain America trilogy is brilliant, we didn't get what we wanted out of Civil War. The reason why we didn't get what we wanted, while you may have, I didn't, out of the Infinity Saga or what have you, because it was not made for my consumption. I'm able to suspend my disbelief in what I know from the comics and enjoy it, but from the comics, that wasn't the Infinity Saga. The actual Infinity War story in comics is crazy brilliant. And it would have divided, man, if you think about Comicsgate and you think about some of the negative and positive things that are conversations that already take place in the comic community. I don't know if you remember when Civil War came out back in the day. People were ready to fight each other. And I think that's
you mean the comics? Yes.
The comic. Like, people were ready to fight. It was very much, it is when comics became political. That is the moment. That is the historical moment where comics went from escapism to real world politics. And people were really choosing sides, and the comics asked you to pick a side. Like, literally, pick a side. That was the campaign.
I agree with what you're saying, but how you're saying it is kind of not settling with me. Only because I don't believe that was like the first time that Marvel ever took a real life experience kind of controversial thing and infused it into storyline. No, okay. Marvel has always done that.
That's not what I'm saying.
But I mean,
Marvel's done with the
even with politics.
They did it with
what I'm saying?
The mutants.
Yes.
God loves, man kills. No, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, and it's the reason why I know Disney didn't want to go that route with Civil War. You got to talk. We're talking early 2000s. We're talking the internet coming into its prime. We're talking people on message boards where before that, there wasn't that. Right. All of this is coming up at the same time. And now we're going to take this identity politic, literally this identity politic. Heroes need to say who they are. And if they don't, they're going to jail. Because this major thing just happened. All these kids got killed. We're blaming you. You need to now, hold on. Well, you need to now register with your state. You need to take off your mask publicly. You need to tell us who you are. And they're asking readers to pick a side. To choose, literally, it was a campaign. Pick a side.
Right.
Captain America on one side, Iron Man on the other side, and it was visceral. Now you have these message boards.
There was a lot of discourse, and it was intended. That was by design.
By design. Yeah. The design was to get people they didn't know.
But my point is, I don't think that the MCU was equipped to do that because it wasn't big enough yet when they did Civil War.
I'm glad they didn't.
But the thing is that you were allowed to do that and feel that way about Winter Soldier. There was a legitimate discussion to be had after Winter Soldier as to whether or not, maybe we should let AI police us. Damn, is security really worth my freedom? You know what I mean? That was the discussion. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a no-brainer. It was like, man, there's a point here. You know what I mean? Like, if you had the opportunity to take out a threat before it was even a threat, you know what I mean? Is it ethically? Is it ethically sound? Is it moral? Is it, you know what I mean? Like,
I would suggest that what happened during that time period with Civil War is very close to, if not the birth of Comicsgate.
What is Comicsgate? You have to
I
explain
mean,
that to me.
yeah, we'll talk about it offline. I don't want to make
Okay.
this about that. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
All right. But my point is that I think that the Civil War had the opportunity for characters to die in the comic book because they had enough magnitude. There's enough mass quantity to be able to do what they did in the books. They could not, they just hadn't reached that point. Like even Rhodey getting injured fell flat. It wasn't like, oh, this is the moment that we need to slow down. Like, what the fuck? You didn't really feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't have the magnitude to be able to do what they needed to do. And somebody needed to die.
Yep.
Somebody needed to die in Civil War for it to strike the chord, for it to really, stakes to really be to really hit home. Like, yo, even if it was an arbitrary death.
That's what raised the stakes in the series. A death.
Yeah.
It was an arbitrary death. But it was a death. It was Goliath being killed by a clone of Thor.
And it was kind of like this moment you were like, well, whoa, hold the fuck up. And they killed, I'm sorry, excuse me. But they kill people, they kill characters in the comics all the time. But it's how they do it that it has to matter. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody needed to die. I would have I mean this I can make this whole live about characters that died and it was unnecessarily and didn't hit as hard as it should have. You know what I mean? Like Quicksilver, like don't get me started. Like my point is that it was impossible for the MCU to have done something comparable to Endgame with Civil War because they didn't have the stake yet. When they did Endgame, they did. And that's why Endgame hit the chords. Not because of a character death, but because there were stakes that you were invested in that left you caring about what the consequences were.
How does Yondu's death hit harder than most of the characters who died in the MCU? It's crazy. That's
a good question.
It's crazy. I think it's because of the way they made it relevant.
Because yo, look at the importance of Yondu.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the role and stake that he claimed, and then look how they treated the death after.
Yep.
That's a great point, man. You know what I mean? Like I like to think that they're doing the same thing with Natasha, but I feel like they're kind of fumbling it. Listen, I love Yelena, I love Florence Pugh, and I if we get time, I'd love to hear about your thoughts on the Thunderbolts trailer and the asterisks. I think that this is a brilliant marketing plan. I saw a YouTube video that laid it out and was like, oh, that's where they're going with this. And it makes a lot of sense. But I don't know that they're handling Natasha's death as effectively as they could have with other characters that have died. But before we go too far, I just want to make sure it's very clear. No, I don't think we get too many movies. That's the first thing. I think I want more. I want so many movies that I don't watch them. That's what I want, right? Everything doesn't need to be for me. I want so many movies. I want my kid to love a show, to have a show that he loves. I want him to have Young Avengers.
I'm going to tell you what I want, what I really, really want, what I really, 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 really want. What I want is for everybody to like and follow Comic Sense on Facebook. I need you to find the page, like and follow it. I need you to find the group, join the group. I need you to go over to YouTube. And I need you to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down or just click on the video for a couple seconds. Don't do nothing. I need you to find us on Instagram and I need you to follow us on Instagram. I need you to do that with all of Matt's various social media platforms as well. And I need you to do that with the Comic Menu Podcast. Do that.
Yeah. Go check us out. We talk about some dope stuff.
Yeah, do that. Matt, we're going to get ready to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I love kicking it with you. I love arguing with you. I told y'all, Matt and I don't always agree. And Matt is one of the few people that can absolutely talk over me or as loud as me and actually be saying something.
It's like we've met each of our matches.
I'm Bob, otherwise known as the Century. He's the Void. Two halves of the same, all of that. Y'all know what we're doing here. Again, I'm the bear, and in this case, Matt is the guy with the thunder stick and a gauge on it. That would be the shotgun. Who wins? The grizzly bear, the
Or
Kodiak
shotgun
grizzly,
shoddy.
or the shoddy? Who strikes first? That's what it is. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. And yeah, as my man J-Rob said, wait till they get a load of him because J-Rob is coming. We got some stuff coming down the pipeline. We've been kicking about some stuff. We've been working on some stuff. We've been putting this stuff together. As my man Brad Pitt said in Army of the 12 Monkeys, we've been kicking it with various minions, various underlings. We got things coming. So please, please, please stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in today as well. Told you we're going to have content coming every week. Meant that you will see Ish and Matt together again somewhere down the line very soon. Matt, shout out to the people.
Yo. Listen, always a pleasure. Love, even when we have off live, conversations. That's my new term. I coined that off live, right? When we have off live conversations, I love this because it's very natural. It's not very produced. We're just being ourselves and sharing our opinions. And, this could easily have just been a phone conversation between the both of us, but that we open it up for everyone's input and everyone's opportunity to make comments.
We had a phone conversation where we disagreed once, and Jay was the moderator, and I'm talking and I'm saying my piece, and Matt's like, yo, I'm about to cook. Like, I'm about to cook. Matt's like, yo, I'm about to cook. I'm like, okay. I love this. Really love this. Really organic. Love kicking it with Matt. Hope you guys enjoy it. You'll be seeing more of it. That's what it is.
Yeah, so check me out on YouTube at Revenge of the Nerd. I'm also on Instagram at Revenge of the Nerd Official. I'm on Facebook under Matthew Lucas. Check me out. I'm in the middle of a project. I haven't been putting out a lot of my own personal content because I'm actually working on a documentary for two legends that are here in Las Vegas. And so that project should be dropping actually next week, which is kind of cool. Congrats. I'm very excited about that. Like Netflix worthy material we're talking about. But it's very simple for us to hop on and do something like this. So maybe more. Maybe, you'll see more in the future.
More. We're going to do that.
I'm with
it. So, yeah, make sure y'all go follow Matt on all of the platforms that he just mentioned. When that documentary drops, he's going to keep us informed. We're going to check that out. We're going to support it. That's what we're going to do. Shout out to y'all, the Common Sense community, crowd, crew, always showing up and showing out. Yo, chilling here with Matt Lucas from Revenge of the Nerd podcast. I am Issue X. This has been a Common Sense production. Y'all know what it is. Pieces.
Holla.